Hello, I'm Murray Hurps, Director of Entrepreneurship for UTS, and we have a very special episode of UTS Startups Confessions. Can I get a little welcome from the audience, please? See, isn't that nice? It's a nice start, yeah. It's nice on a Friday. Pledge 1%. Raise your hand if you've heard of Pledge 1%. Okay. Raise your hand if you've taken Pledge 1%. All right, so you see what this is about. But it's one thing to talk about Pledge 1%. I think it's another thing to talk about what has it done for different companies, what are the benefits of it, what part does it play in the kind of business networks and the opportunities for people and the kind of satisfaction that people get from the companies that they run. But we'll get to that in a second, and I'm going to throw to audience questions through this as well, so please be ready with some questions along the way. I'll do self-introductions if I can. Mangala, please.
Yeah, so Mangala Martinus, I'm Managing Director and Founder of Payments Consulting Network and Merchant Pricing Hub. Did you want us to talk about our business quickly as well? Yeah, so I run an international consulting business, so we've got consultants in 8 markets. Our clients are either card schemes, financial institutions, or payments technology companies where we might do product strategy, benchmarking, market research, or they are businesses such as retailers, not-for-profits, hospitality businesses, e-commerce businesses that accept payments, and we help them identify which payments companies they should be using and making sure it's cost-effective and it's a great customer experience. So that's us.
Awesome.
I'm Kate Kesby, so I'm the founder and CEO of WYDA. We are in corporate education, so we are a SaaS company that delivers business education, accelerating professional experience through a business RPG or role-playing game.
Thanks, Kate. Hi, my name's Tom. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Vpply. Vpply is a video technology company specialising in HR tech. We are live in 5 different countries, so basically if anyone's looking to hire or looking for work, we do that in terms of video. So yeah, thanks for having us.
Okay, so 3 amazing companies there, honestly, and I've done the backgrounds. These are proper companies. You're busy people, you've got other things to do on a Friday night, as everyone here does, but why Pledge 1%?
Maybe I'll start. Yeah. So I'm probably the youngest in terms of my company being around, and also in terms of joining the pledge. So yeah, look, I was lucky enough to be introduced to these guys over a webinar at Fishburners, and it just resonated with me in terms of what the pledge is all about, in terms of giving back. Again, as an early company, what can I give back, right? So we are revenue generating. We're not profitable. I think we talked about that. We had a bit of a laugh about that as well. But yeah, the main thing for me is time. How can I give my time away, and what can I do in terms of encouraging people to apply for jobs that don't necessarily know how to do it or have difficulties? So yeah, I'm working with the disability sector and educating people how to apply for many different roles, how to sell themselves on camera, because they might not know how to do it on a piece of paper. So that's how I joined the pledge.
Nice, well done. So for me, giving and generosity has always been part of just who I am, always. And when I started the company, it was around how do I make that less about me as a founder and more about the organisation and the company that we wanted to scale, so that it translates to the whole company beyond me into the future, all of the employees that join. And it's a good way to give structure to that. So we really believe that business can be a force for good, or business is a force in the community for better or worse. We're trying to use our company to educate people on how to make it a force for good, and we wanted to live that ourselves. So Pledge 1% is a really good way to put structure and a framework and bring that to life. So it's not just words on a page, but it's some tangible, practical action we can take.
Thanks. Do you want me to just explain Pledge 1% a little bit?
That'd be good, yeah.
For those people who don't know. So Pledge 1%, it's a global movement. We started a number of years ago. And so when we talk about pledge 1%, it's 4 pledges that you can take. It can be 1% of profit, 1% of time, 1% of product, so you can give away free product, or 1% of equity. And so you can do any one of those pledges, or you can do a combination or 4. So, and you can change what you do over time as well. So that's what pledge 1% is. In terms of my organisation, I set this up 9 years ago, and before we joined pledge 1%, I built in, I wanted to give back in some way, and so I had decided that I would be giving away our profits to charity from the start. And it wasn't until last year that I joined pledge 1%, and it was more because I found that I was finding it difficult to find my tribe of organisations and people like ourselves here that could relate to why I was giving. And often I'd be part of small business forums where I'd have to constantly rationalise to people, this is why I do what I do, and this is why giving is important and being generous is important for me, and the purpose around why I set up the business. Whereas when I joined pledge 1%, I didn't have to have those conversations. It was around how do we work together to have a bigger impact. And so, one of the suggestions was coming out to startup hubs to talk about it, to get people as they're setting up businesses, to start thinking about it. And then, these guys stepped up and said, yep, we'll be part of that. So I couldn't have done that in another forum, but being part of a community that was thinking the same way, it was very easy to get going. So that's, I guess, why I joined pledge 1%.
Okay, and that is probably a good segue into the next question of, it's easy when you're 9 years in, or probably easier to say, I want to give back, and to not have more pressing things where you're worried about paying your first employee or just making it to the next, whatever you need to pay for. Maybe Tom, as a 2-year-old startup that's pre-profit, or how does it factor into what you're doing? So how does that translate from 9 years down to a 2-year-old startup, as in terms of your reason for doing it?
Yeah, I think Kate touched on it. I think ultimately most of us are naturally good people and we want to do good. And, for me, when I was speaking to employers, when I was looking at the job seeker applications that are coming through when I started the business, there was just a volume of people who were amazing. And, for me, naturally, I was like, how can I get these people to the right employer? What's the pathway? And it wasn't a revenue generating pathway, if that makes sense. So it just naturally, I sort of gravitated towards certain companies, individuals, and it just made sense for me to sort of allocate time, which is where, even before the pledge, I was allocated, a lot of time, and also a couple of my other people at the company. So there's 14 of us at the moment. But yeah, how can we actually upskill people to get jobs? Just through those conversations, it just became more natural. And like Mangala said, the conversation started and was just a natural thing for me to associate myself with,
Do you think it gives you more purpose in what you're doing? Like the kind of ability to put up with the bad days because there's good things coming out of what you do?
I think purpose does, not necessarily pledge 1%. So I think, you're going to go to pledge 1% if purpose is important and it's a way of communicating to your people that's not just a nice thing, but you actually want them to dig in and think about this beyond themselves and beyond the company's immediate goals. What is the bigger impact? So it's really about communicating the action that's required to execute and deliver on that purpose. But it's going to be the purpose that you have, that you've got into it for, that's there through the very hard days that do come.
Let me continue asking about that then, because if only I had a business role-playing game, and WYDA, WYDA.
Yeah.
It's an incredible thing. You need to check it out. But in terms of how a purpose can play into the kind of dynamics of a company, how do you think that would play out in a hypothetical role-playing game?
Well, we actually bring to life, because we're simulating a real workplace environment, we bring to life role modelling what it means to be an ally. We have diverse characters so that we have gender equality, we have ethnic equality, we have all sorts of characters that we can display and role model what that looks like. And we put people through situations where they experience it and they build empathy for different situations. Once they've got that self-awareness of, I didn't realise if I do this, I'm making people feel like that, it's a safe space for them to learn. Well, we put them in situations they wouldn't normally be in, it gives them that much wider perspective. So a purpose, once you've articulated that purpose, and it goes not just in the profits that you give at the end of the year, but right through product design. What are we here for? How do we bring that to life? And people feel okay about putting their time into really thinking about how do I translate that into everything we do and how we communicate with customers and how we behave with each other to really bring it to life.
Okay. Because for the people at home, like, do a little virtual role play right now. Imagine you're going to interview for a company and you met that person that runs that company at a Pledge 1% event. You might look at that company a little bit differently, or if you're a potential partner of them or customer of them, like, it's a different way of engaging with people, I think. And it's not just, you wouldn't necessarily put it on the website, but it's a way of engaging with people under a different premise and for a better purpose, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a way of bringing our values to life. So, you know, we give away founder equity because that was easier. Little tip, if you're giving away equity, founder equity, the investors can't argue with that. They don't care as long as it's founder equity and they're not diluting them. We give away product, but we also then think about not just offering scholarships or free product, but how do we use our product as a vehicle for impact as well. We do time and we do profit. And when we are also pre-profit, so we do revenue or a share of that kind of incremental profit that comes with winning new business. So, yeah.
Okay. Question for anyone that wants to take it. How does this factor into kind of B Corps and social enterprises?
So it's very different in terms of, it's more it's a pledge, so it's a commitment. And it's a very easy commitment. So 1% of something is something that's very easy to give up, I think. Yep. If you go then to social traders, that's more about social enterprises. So you then have a whole series of criteria that you have to meet to qualify and be certified as a social enterprise, and then you can go on social traders procurement list and be on the procurement list for large corporates and government organisations that have a criteria where they need to buy from social enterprises. B Corp, I think, is a bit more rigorous again, and I haven't gone into the nuts and bolts of B Corp certification, but I have spoken to organisations that they have done that, and it's a very rigorous process. So you've got to decide whether you actually need that. And for me, I think the first thing is just making that decision to do the right thing, is the way I call it, in terms of giving back to community. And I think that's what's important first, and all the other badges that you can get along the way, you've got to decide, do you really need that or not? I found, for 8 years, we didn't have a badge, even though we were giving back, not only, a share of revenue, but also our time. But when we did put that badge on, I found it was quite empowering to our consulting team, our support staff, where they felt ownership of it before, whereas before it was always, Mangala's thing in terms of giving back, because I was the founder. But as soon as we built it into our vision and made it public and took the Pledge 1% badge, they then owned it and they were proud. And so that's where I found those badges can help as well.
Okay. And this is an interesting thing in terms of people's enthusiasm for social enterprises, or kind of extreme end of the Socialist Party at UTS and places like that are wonderful people and are fighting for what they want to achieve in the world. There's a spectrum of, it's not this capitalism or socialism, or not the social enterprise or a PTY LTD. There are things in between that can create companies that grow quickly, give returns to investors. and do good things for the world and can project that in different ways. And Pledge 1% is a thing you can do in 5 seconds that then gives yourself a commitment and commitment to others that can progress and become larger as you're demonstrating. I think it's a wonderful thing and something that people need to understand better. We'll throw to questions in a second, so if anyone has any questions, let's get those ready. I'll do a quick whip around the room though, and this in terms of your own company and things that you might wish that someone pledged to you at the moment. Reciprocity is a thing, and think about these wonderful entrepreneurs that are out there pledging to people around them that need it, but what do you need at the moment?
What do I need at the moment? Wow, everything. What have you got? Yeah, look, for us, you know, I was just thinking about product. You know, we're talking about how we can, as part of the 1% pledge, what do we do in terms of product? For us, you know, I spoke to the partially blind community, and suddenly we pressed a button and everything was twice as big on our website. You know, just little things like that were really easy things for us to implement that just made sense for us to do what we do. But yeah, sorry, that was kind of just thinking about what you were saying before. But yeah, what do we need? Yeah, for us, it's just if anyone's looking to post a job, if anyone's looking for work, if anyone's struggling to articulate who they are on a piece of paper or a CV or a cover letter, if someone's got an amazing story to tell, yeah, Vpply is a great solution, you know, just to give the product a bit of a plug. But yeah, I think what do we need? Yeah, we need everything, you know, just more awareness, and I think the pledge is what we're here to talk about. So I think it's a great thing to think about when you're starting a business. Like, why are you doing it and what can you give back? Like, you know, if you're doing it just for purely revenue, sort of selfish reasons, like when can I retire, how can I exit quicker, it might not be a good idea to start a business. Like, there's got to be something a little bit deeper in there. So anyway, sorry to scare everyone.
Okay, and that's Vpply, Google.
Yeah. What do I need? Sleep, capital, customers, you know, all of the above. I guess if you are working in or working with, if you're a founder trying to sell to corporations and you don't understand how they make decisions or who would be involved, then WYDAgame.com, come and check it out. You can play the simulation game yourselves.
Cool. That's WYDAgame.com.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I probably just need more sleep. And I guess we're always trying to help businesses, right? So if you're happen to be at a fintech and you need some advice, you know, a day of input from us, I think, can help steer you in the right direction. If you're a startup or scale up that has an e-commerce site or has stores with products, then we can help reduce the cost of payments, help make sure you use the right payment service provider. So we're really there to help. I guess in terms of what I'd really like is if one organisation or 3 organisations takes up the pledge and wants to give more, then we've doubled our impact. So that's what I'd really like.
Okay, and I think we can get that through this stream and the people in the room. But isn't the world a nicer place when people do pay attention to what people need and are willing to support each other? The thought that there's people out there jumping on your websites and people out there signing up to the pledge and then going on in 10 years' time becoming interesting companies, and partly because of the pledge and partly impacting because of the pledge as well. It's why I love startup communities. Like when people sit around each other and they actually give a hoot about the people next to them, wonderful things happen. And I kind of like Pledge 1% because it feels like a much bigger startup community that is just baking some of that into the DNA of companies. It's a wonderful thing. Okay. Can we get a little thank you round of applause to start, and then we'll throw to questions. Okay. Questions? Yes.
Hi, Peter here. As you know, UTS is mostly focused. Am I too close to something? Stand over here. Okay. Mostly focused on students and recent graduates. You know, a lot of these young people, generally young people, sometimes not, such as myself, you know, are wondering when is the best time to start a business. You know, is it right for people to start business early, or should they build up some experience and build up some clients and work out an industry? Or let me ask you, if I may, when you started and why you thought it was that was the right time for you to start, and do you have any recommendations for young people at UTS? Thank you.
I started very late, so I was at 43, but I met someone at the UTS Startups Awards night who was Richard, who was 22,
Yeah.
and he's got, you know, a crypto spend startup that's doing really well, and he was telling me all the things he's done, and I thought, wow, how have you done this at such a young age? So I don't think there is an age factor at all. You've just got to find something you're passionate about, a problem that needs to be solved, and test that problem to make sure it really is a problem. And then it's just a lot of hard work. That's the reality of it.
I'd echo that. I think it's not an age thing. I think for me, I worked in corporates for about 15 years, and it's too slow and it's frustrating and there's bureaucracy, and for many reasons it wasn't me, but I learned so much there. And all of the things that frustrated me there is what I'm able to bring into my game, and the lived experience is very realistic because I have that experience. But I identified that gap that, you know, right around the world where I was working with clients after I dropped out and I was consulting. It's like, this problem is still here. Every industry I go into all around the world, someone should really do something about that. And it actually took me a few years to say, no one's doing anything about this. Why shouldn't it be me? And I think I probably could have done that bit faster. So I'd love to see entrepreneurs just have a go. But I think if your life experience when you're younger shows you what the gap is and what the opportunity is, and it's given you a drive to solve a problem, then that's great. You don't have to wait and get experience. You already have that experience of whatever it is. But it is hard. So you need a network of people you can draw on. So build your community early if that's what you're going to do. Ask questions, find mentors, you know, find those other people who can help you if you're starting early, but just start. You know, don't wait till it's perfect. Just work it out as you go. Figure it out.
That was a great answer. I think I kind of want to mirror everything that Kate just said. There's never a right time to start. I think that's something. I think we actually started a little bit too early. We didn't do enough sort of user experience. You know, we had a product. You know, it all looked good, but you know, we went, let's go, and you know, it was kind of a little bit buggy in terms of the flow. We didn't do enough sort of testing. So yeah, that's probably one thing in hindsight we should have done a little bit more of. But yeah, identify the problem and the solution. Again, I think, you know, for me, hundreds of CVs flying around, or some of my clients had 50,000 CVs to one job, and they were really frustrated. Like, where is the you know, the diamond in this huge stack of papers? So yeah, we sort of utilize video technology to show people in a slightly different way and probably have less applications of better quality. So that was what we identified. And again, obviously, do your market research, see what's out there. Yeah, I think, you know, never the right time to pull the trigger, but yeah, better early than never, right? So yeah, just do it.
Also gets harder to be an entrepreneur every year you get older, I think. Because you have dependents, you have a career path to put on hold, you've got a reputation, a self-perception you have to put on hold. I think when you're younger, you can do anything and be anything, and there's opportunity costs and other things to think about. But I think, for me at least, it was easier when younger and harder when you get older.
I had the opposite.
Oh, shh.
Because I got to a stage where financially I thought, I've got enough. I can take risks now, and it doesn't really matter. And from personally, I thought I've achieved everything I wanted to in my career. It doesn't really matter what I do next. And so I was willing to take lots of risks that 10 years previously I would never have considered because I was super conservative, but because I was at a stage where I thought, I've got nothing to lose. I don't need a flash corporate title. I gave myself a flash corporate title, but because I could. But I was willing to take so many risks. And I think the other thing is you take those risks and expect to make a lot of mistakes, and that's okay. And you just learn to change really quickly. And so the longer I've gone, the more risks we take, because we're now much better at letting go and deciding that's not working, let's stop. And then when we find a risk that actually works, we go, wow, and we double down and double down again. And so that's the biggest change I've learned over the last 8 or so years, was to let go of the ego about the stuff that you think should work. And as soon as you notice that they're not working, just drop it. And that's allowed us to progress very quickly, I think.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, this yell out and I'll repeat it.
All right. Has the pledge impacted the way you have your conversations with investors?
So has the pledge impacted the way you talk to investors?
Go for it.
I can take this one. I think so. I think people often say when you're raising capital to find investors that are a good fit and that are values aligned, because you can get divorced easier than you can get rid of investors. So for me, it's a signal to investors. If they're not aligned on that value, they're already self-selecting out. If I'm public about my pledge 1%, I have taken it out of founder equity, so I'm only diluting myself, and that makes it much easier for investors, but I still think it's an important signal. And there'll be some investors that would think that's a really positive thing, because we're thinking about the longer term, we're really getting that engagement with our people and our customers and our community, and so I think it's an important signal to investors. Do you have anything?
Yeah, very much the same for me. Yeah.
Okay. We have to stop calling it the pledge. When you say it a lot, it sounds like some kind of movement.
It does sound like a cult, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I would describe it as a movement.
Yeah. I guess, there's good movements and bad. I'll throw one last question at you each, which is, okay, looking back 9 years, 4 years, and 2 years, if you could tell yourself one thing that's the most important thing you could know looking down the camera, what would it be?
Yeah, look, start. I think I was so hesitant to step away from, really good job. Had an awesome career, really good prospects to do more in terms of the corporate world. But I think deep down inside me, I was like, I'm not really into this. I think there's more that I could do. And just taking that step is really, really hard. I got to be honest with you. I've got 2 little kids, so I'm also sleep deprived and, have lots and lots on my mind all the time. But I'm really grateful that I took the step and actually, started something,
It
Sure,
sounds
your
like
kids
the
are
world's a
gonna be
better
proud.
place. Yeah. For me, it would be start as you mean to go on. And what I mean by that is early, we made some very short-term decisions, just tactical decisions around, we'll do it this way just to get started. And then when we're bigger, we'll fix it. And in a tech startup, some of those things to retrofit some technology is really expensive and really hard. So really think carefully about those decisions. What is something that's a short-term workaround and what is something that's really going to be with you for a long time?
Probably got a couple of things. One is I should have got a mentor because I came from a corporate world and strategy roles, thought I knew everything and then did lots of mistakes. And I should have got a mentor who had set up a business like a startup hub. Probably the other thing was not to beat myself up when things went wrong. And I actually got that feedback from other people a couple of years down the track when I thought, I've done this mistake and this mistake. And they said, don't give yourself a hard time, you're still in business. And focus on that and all the good stuff. So that was number 2. And number 3 was I've learned just to find a bit more balance, not do the crazy hours for a long period. And as soon as I start doing the crazy hours for 3 months, I was saying to Murray before, I delegate more, we automate more, we hire more. And if none of those works, we just stop doing as much new business because until we can start coping in terms of hours. So those are the 3 things I've learned.
Okay, wouldn't it be nice if this video was online back then and you could just, save yourself some headaches? but it's out there for everyone else. And for anyone watching, normally this is a special edition, but we normally do UTS Startups Confessions every Friday from 3:30 in UTS Startups at Central. So come on down, pizza, drinks, nice people. It's a lovely thing. Mangala, Kate, and Tom, thank you very much for joining us. Could I get another round of applause and another thanks for everyone here? Thanks very much.